Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavinsky's Tutorials. Today I'm looking at LoopBud by Cem Olcay. I've done videos on a few of his apps before. I'll try and put links to at least a couple of them above, but I only have a 5 link limit per YouTube video, so I may not have room for that. If you just search on YouTube Gavinsky and some of the names of his apps like ArpBud to ChordBud and so on, you'll be able to see my videos on those. Now, I've also got a giveaway in today's video. Basically, if you're a subscriber to the channel, you can have the chance to win one of any 5 copies of any app by Cem Olcay. So, all the details of what you need to do are in the pinned comment at the top of the YouTube comment section. If you're not a subscriber, it doesn't matter. You can subscribe now and just follow those instructions. Okay, cheers to Cem for providing those. I like to offer viewers the chance to win any app by a developer, because then if you want, you can watch this video, you can go right away and buy this app, but you still have a chance to win something else, right? That's nice. Also remember, even if you've got all his stuff, even if you win, you can, give it to a friend or something, make you very popular. All right. So first thing I'm going to look at is how to set up MIDI in this. So if I have LoopBud here and I have this hamburger menu here, I'm going to click here and then I'm going to select keyboard as my input source. So now that means that my keyboard is going to send MIDI into LoopBud. If you're not familiar with this kind of thing, by the way, you would probably really benefit from watching the hour-long tutorial on AUM that I did a couple of months ago. Now, here I'm going to choose LoopBud as the source, right? So what that means is that my keyboard is going to be sending MIDI into LoopBud, and LoopBud is going to be sending MIDI into Korg module. So if we look here in LoopBud, I've got play pressed and I've got record pressed. I've also got the transport running in AUM. Now, if I press pause here in AUM transport, it's going to pause this. If I have the transport running and I depress play, this transport bar is still going to keep moving. Right? So the transport is going to be controlled by AUM, not by this play button. If I want to rewind things, I have to use this rewind button in AUM. Okay, now, so if I press play and record, you can see record is not doing anything. Why is that? Because first I need to press play in the AUM transport. So I'll press play there. I'll press record. Now, I've got add selected here. That is the recording mode. So in this mode, when I start playing, it's going to overdub. So let's have a listen to what that's like. So here if I start playing things in now, it's going to overdub over the top of that. Now let me clear this. And let me show you what will happen when the mode is new. So in new, when I record something, if it goes back to the start, as long as I'm not playing in anything new, it will keep looping that. But as soon as I play something else, it's going to replace the earlier loop with this new loop. Right, so as soon as I play some notes now, it's going to record those in and the old stuff's going to disappear. So that's the difference between the new and the add mode. Later in the video, I'll talk about another mode that I would like to see added. Currently, it's only got these 2. I'll talk about that later in the video. Now, a few more things. By default, let me just clear this. By default, it starts with a 4-bar pattern. It's very easy to change that. We just use this add bar button up in the top right, and then we can add bars. Now, it doesn't seem to have a remove bar button, unless I'm missing something. I don't have a manual or anything for this, but I can just use undo, for example. So it does have undo here down at the bottom right. So I can take that and back to the 4-bar pattern. So what else? We've got this little quantization button here. So we can use this to quantize the notes that we enter to certain note values. Now, when it's like this, it's off, so there's no quantization. Here, quantization is on. And the quantization value can be set here in the settings menu. We have a few different choices. So yeah, we've got our clear button and our undo button here. And then over here on the bottom left, we've got these patterns. So what we can do is we can record a pattern in. So here, anything I do, it's going to be recording in as pattern 1. If I click on this, you can see here I've already got one that I recorded earlier as pattern 2. Got one here, pattern 3. So you can switch between patterns. So basically you can use this, you could build up a song basically by using these different patterns. And then I use the add button to add new patterns. Now, another thing you can do that's really cool is if you press here on one of these, you can just loop that bar and you can just record into that. And then when you unpress it, it's going to stop looping the bar and just go on. So you can use this to, if you're playing something difficult, for example, or you're not really sure what you want to play, you can just build up a bigger pattern bar by bar. That's very, very nice little feature, very useful. Just clear that pattern a second. Let me pop out. I'm going to check something. I think there's something I forgot about what a long press does here. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so if we look at the main app, it has a small little tutorial thing which says, while you're playing or recording, you can focus on individual bars by pressing over them. If you long press the bars, you may copy, paste, or delete them. But that doesn't seem to be working for me. When I long press here, I'm not getting any kind of choice, copy, paste, or anything like that. So I wonder if that is a bug. Anyway, I knew there was something that long press was supposed to do, but it wasn't doing anything for me. So I'm glad I checked that. That long press is not working for me. So there's supposed to be a way to copy and paste bars and patterns in this, but doesn't seem to be working. Anyway, I'm sure that will be fixed very quickly, or maybe it's human error on my part. If it is, then maybe the little tutorial in the standalone app should give more details about what circumstances that works under. Okay. If we look in settings, by the way, let's see a few other things. So patterns, CC. So we can use this to change which CC will send pattern change messages. Here we can select the MIDI channel. You can see that unfortunately it can't receive on multiple channels at the same time, and I'll talk a little bit later in the video about why that is so annoying to me that it can't do that. Here we have the quantization. Here you can set the low and high key for the piano roll. And then here we have export MIDI. So if I press this export button, it's going to export the pattern 1 MIDI. If I change this, then it's going to export pattern 2. If I press this, it'll merge all the patterns and export all of them. I haven't tried that, I assume it's going to do it sequentially, like it'll first have pattern 1 and then it'll have pattern 2, then it'll have pattern 3, instead of just sticking them all on top of each other. Haven't tried it though. Okay. So, very simple. That's basically what it does. Now, a few things that I want to talk about here. First of all, the difference between this and Atom Piano Roll. So, very important to realize, Atom Piano Roll, which is probably the main tool that most people would be using at the moment to do this kind of thing. Atom is also an editor. It's not just a looper. So when you play notes into Atom, you can drag them around and change the sizes and so on. You can't do that in LoopBud. LoopBud, although it looks very similar to a pattern roll editor, when you actually click on these, they won't do anything. You can't make any changes to them whatsoever. So it's not an editor. So that's a huge advantage that Atom Piano Roll has, that you can edit notes in it. As I say, I'm going to keep this video short, so I'm not going to go in and start demonstrating these things. But LoopBud has a huge advantage over Atom in that it's so much easier to just go in and start recording things. Actually, when you want to adjust bar lengths in Atom, unless it's something, I've never really even, I've only used this app in very basic ways. So maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think so. Basically, setting up the bar lengths in this is kind of a pain in the ass. I've never enjoyed it. It's so much easier and faster to do that in LoopBud. So if you just want to record simple loops, LoopBud is going to be a lot easier. If you're looking for a kind of like a DAW in AUM, then Atom Piano Roll is maybe going to be more what you're looking for, but you might find some aspects of it frustrating. Now, Atom Piano Roll is going to get a really killer update soon, but that soon has already been months and months and months, so who knows when that'll come out. So yeah, LoopBud does have some advantages there. It's very, very, very fast and easy to use, but it's not an editor. Okay, now differences between LoopBud and Gauss. So Gauss, I have used a lot. If you're a regular on my channel, you'll have seen Gauss all the time because I use it to death, basically, and I love it to bits. But so Gauss is an audio looper. The thing with an audio looper that has advantages in that one cool thing you can do is, for example, you could have a bunch of different channels with different instruments on them, and then you could set up a mix bus, and you could put Gauss in the FX slot on the mix bus. Just pretend this is a mix bus receiving from various different channels. So then you could build up complex loops in Gauss with a lot of different audio in one loop, right? But you've got to remember that things like Atom or like LoopBud are not audio recorders, they're MIDI recorders. So all you're recording in here is a bunch of notes, and then it's up to you, where you send those notes and how you send them and so on. But the big advantage that MIDI looper like LoopBud has is, let's say, let me just record a few notes in here. I can just scroll through. I can very easy way to try out different presets, or very nice to play with synths knobs and do a bit of sound design without having to think too much about actually playing at the same time. Right, so that's one of the things I love about MIDI loopers. So definitely, I think even if you have Gauss or Enzo, for example, which is also an audio looper, there's still definitely room for MIDI loopers. They're different tools with different uses, well worth having both. All right, so as I said at the beginning, this is going to be a short video today. What would I like to see added then? A few things that I've maybe mentioned briefly already. I'll just summarize them. So one thing I would like to see is, instead of just having a new and an add mode, I think it would be great if there was a kind of Frippertronics mode, like Gauss has, for example, or Enzo also has that. So when you use that, let's say, for example, I'm thinking I've mostly used that in Enzo, so I'm thinking the way it sets it up there. In Enzo, for example, if you set the value to 100, the volume of all the loops will just be static. But if you set it to 98 or whatever, you'll get a very, very slow reduction in volume in the older loops over time. If you set it to something very low like 10, you'll get a radical drop in volume at the end of each loop. So this can allow you to build up very complex loopscapes where the old loops decay over time. The way LoopBud is at the moment, you can't do anything like that. That's a real lost opportunity, I think. I mean, unless there's some reason, some technical reason why that can't be done. Maybe there is. In that case, apologies. But if it's possible to add that, it's something that I'd love to see added. Second thing I really want to see is the ability to record MPE. There is an urgent need for a nice, easy looper, a nice, easy audio unit looper that allows you to record MPE, particularly after the Swarm sounds having come out recently by audio modeling, right? All these beautiful brass, or on GeoShred, for example, you've got all those lovely, also from Swarm sounds, and you've got the sax and the flute and everything in GeoShred. I've done videos on all of these before, so if you haven't seen those, you can just search YouTube, Gawinski GeoShred Swarm, or Gawinski audio modeling, and you'll find my videos on those. Did extensive videos on all of those things. I mean, it's just great to have an MPE recorder as an audio unit for recording those kinds of sounds, or the MIDI for those sounds. So it's very complex to set up MPE editing in a DAW, but because this is not an editor, it's just a recorder, that's not actually difficult. It's not difficult to record MPE audio. So I've already talked to James, the developer, about that, and I really, really hope that he is interested in it. I think he thinks maybe that it's going to be harder than it's going to be. I'm pretty sure that's going to be very easy. So I really, really hope that in the next update that gets added, and if it does, it's going to be absolutely killer, and I'm going to be using this so much. Because at the moment, you can use Photon for that, but Photon, the interface is definitely not as user-friendly as this. It's a very, very powerful app. I like Photon, but it is not the most user-friendly app. It's something that you've really got to read the manual, and even if you read the manual, it's very easy to kind of make mistakes in using it. It's quite hard to get your head around that app. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it in some ways. But another problem with Photon is that it doesn't process sustain CC messages properly. So I haven't been using it with piano motifs, for example. Initially, in my first piano motifs video, I used it. Later, I realized it had some problems in recording sustain messages, so I stopped using it for that. So yeah, it's very, very, it'd be great to have this being able to record MPE MIDI. And then the third thing I wish this had is MIDI import. I mean, maybe I think maybe James maybe only wants to keep this as a little live MIDI recorder, but I don't know if it would be that hard really to add MIDI import. Maybe it would, I don't know, I'm not a developer. But if it was easy to add, I think it would be a very, very popular feature, because there's currently no good MIDI player audio unit for iOS that I know of. There are only inter-app audio ones. There's no audio unit one. I think if this, this has some really nice features already. It's very, very easy to use. That's the main thing. Extremely easy to use. Very fast to get going. But if it added the ability to record MPE and the ability to play MIDI files, it would seriously be a great little app. And I think it would probably help to future-proof it a little bit against the upcoming Atom 2 release, which people have been really looking forward to. But like I say, who knows when on earth that's going to come out, because it's really taken a long time. All right, everyone. So short but sweet today. If you enjoyed this, please do remember to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and support the channel in any way you can. I really appreciate your support, everyone. All right, thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.